Guys, we are back. Good evening, good morning, or good afternoon. As always, it is so great to see you. Now, today we're going to be talking about 8 things you need to consider when buying a new camera. And really, it boils down to this. You're ready to invest in a new camera, right? Will you get a tried and true tested DSLR? Is it a mirrorless in your future? What about an action camera or a compact camera or a bridge camera? Guys, as you can see, there are so many choices. Now, whether you're on the hunt for your first camera or you want to upgrade what you currently have already, stick around until the end of this video and you'll learn a few things to look out for so you can get the best camera for your needs. And if you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, hey, thanks for coming back. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, or at least consider doing so. By subscribing, you're going to stay up to date on all of our content, which includes educational videos like this, gear reviews, photography news, and much more. We also have some awesome gear giveaways each month, so definitely you don't want to miss out on that. So pull up a seat and let's go. There are all kinds of cameras that you can use. You have a smartphone, which are small, lightweight, user-friendly, and always with you, but they do have a tiny sensor. Then you have an action camera, a go anywhere, do anything option for photo and video, but this lacks some of the features of a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. Then you have a compact camera. Again, these are small, lightweight, these can fit in your pocket and have a zoom lens for getting a range of shots. Typically, these have no grip and have a very small sensor. Then we have a bridge camera. These cameras have like DSLR-like bodies and have a built-in zoom lens. They also have larger sensors than the compact, but are a little bit on the bulky side, just like DSLRs, and you are limited to the built-in lens. Then of course we have a DSLR, and these have a mirror that flips up when a picture is taken. So to make room for all that, they have typically bigger bodies. Now there are tons of lenses for DSLRs, which is a good thing, and DSLRs have larger sensors than some of the other cameras that we've mentioned so far. Now the size and weight of DSLRs, in particular full-frame DSLRs, can make them a bit cumbersome though. Next we have mirrorless. Now these cameras are typically smaller and lighter than DSLRs because they don't have a mirror. Now like DSLRs, they do benefit from the larger sensors of the group, and there are tons of lenses available for most of these cameras as well. Now let's go over 8 things that you need to know before you buy a camera. Number 1, what are you going to use it for? Now the first question that you need to consider is what you're going to use the camera for. Are you getting the camera so you can start vlogging or making video content? If so, having a camera with a front-facing screen and a microphone port will make creating videos much easier. Likewise, you want to make sure that the camera offers good video quality, which these days is typically 4K, and you want to inspect the frame rates it has for video. For example, the EOS R, which is this camera right here, is one of my cameras along with my R5. Now this has 4K video. Now, although it's cropped at 1.8, it offers a frame rate of 30 frames per second at 4K, 60 frames per second at 1080, and 120 frames per second at 720p. Or maybe you travel a lot and you want something more capable than your smartphone. In that case, a DSLR option would be one that's small, lightweight, like for example, the Canon Rebel SL3, which only weighs like 14 ounces and it measures 4.82 by 3.65 by 2.75 inches. Now, alternatively, maybe you're into action photography. If so, an action camera like the GoPro Hero 8 Black or the upcoming GoPro Hero 9 Black is going to be a great option. Now, these cameras take still images, record 4K video, and have tons of mods, other options, and are built like tanks to withstand the rigors of all your adventures. Now, of course, these are just simple examples, but I think you get my point. Before you go buy any camera, you really have to figure out what you needed to do, so therefore you can tailor the camera to your specific needs. Okay, number 2, how about the sensor size? Now, it's easy to get caught up in the megapixel count of a camera, but a more important criteria is the size of the sensor itself. The larger the sensor and the larger the pixels on the sensor, the more information that the sensor can record. With more information, the larger sensors can accommodate a greater dynamic range or the range of intensity in the shot from light to dark. So a full frame camera like my Canon EOS R5, which has a large 35mm equivalent sensor, does a better job of recording the dynamic range than a camera with a APS-C sensor like my Canon M6 Mark II or a Micro Four Thirds sensor like a Panasonic GH5. Now in turn, a Micro Four Thirds camera will do a better job of recording information than your iPhone because the Micro Four Thirds is a larger sensor than what is in your phone. But still, full frame sensors aren't just better equipped at capturing all the detail and highlights in the shadows, they also offer better low light performance than smaller sensors. That's just a couple advantages of going big with the sensor. And of course, the larger the image sensor, the more expensive that camera is going to be, and that, of course, is something to consider as well. Number 3, consider the build quality and handling. Now, a lot of cameras really look the same, but when shopping for a camera, you need to look beyond the superficial stuff and really explore the build of the camera body itself. For example, some cameras have a fixed LCD while others have one that tilts up or down. Still others have an LCD that flips out and turns around facing forward. Some LCDs have touch capabilities, making changing the camera settings and selecting the autofocus point a much easier task. Some cameras have a nice, big, chunky grip and are great for shooters like me that have, well, big hands. Others have very small grips that are perfect suited for someone that has a smaller hand profile. Now, usually DSLRs have bigger grips, as do full-frame cameras. Compact cameras and bridge cameras, on the other hand, they really do sacrifice a big grip for the smaller overall size of the camera itself. Other things to consider are the type of ports. Is there a microphone jack for vlogging? Is there an HDMI port for external monitor? Are there custom buttons that you can assign functions to? Think about the kind of memory card that the DSLR takes, as well as the number of memory card slots it has. And if you're buying a camera for video, having a second memory card slot could be a godsend. And many cameras like my EOS R or my R5 have environmental sealing to keep the moisture and that dust out of the camera. So if you're a traveling photographer or landscape enthusiast and you're going to be spending a lot of time outdoors with your camera, you might think about getting something with a weathered sealed body. All right, number 4, what about the brand? Canon, Nikon, Sony, Panasonic, Leica, camera companies certainly have their dedicated followers. But at the end of the day, brand really doesn't matter all that much unless you're already invested into the brand. So if you already have a couple Nikon lenses, upgrading to a new Nikon camera might make more sense than switching to Canon or another brand. But if you have never owned a camera and you haven't already invested in one brand or another, you will find that cameras from different companies are highly comparable in terms of their general features, usage, functionality, and so forth. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to jump from one brand to another if you're already invested in one. You might recall I was a Nikon shooter for years, actually 15 years or so, before I actually switched over to Canon. Now, I switched because the Canon EOS R was the best camera for my needs. Then Canon released the R5, which hands down is the best camera that I've ever owned. So that just goes to show it's not about the brand or even your investment into a brand. Instead, it's about what you need from the camera and buying the one that best fits your needs. Number 5, think about the lens situation. Again, Canon, Nikon, and other heavy hitters have been making cameras for a very long time, and that means they offer tons of lenses that will work with modern cameras. Be aware that many DSLRs have bigger lenses selection than some of the mirrorless cameras, simply because DSLRs have been around a much longer time, so there's a lot more lenses to choose from. Now, this isn't to say that mirrorless cameras don't have a good selection of lenses. Canon's RF lineup of lenses is absolutely epic, and it's continuing to grow, and it's one of the reasons I switched to the Canon EOS R ecosystem in the first place. But note that mirrorless cameras have different mounts than DSLRs, so if you have a Nikon DSLR and you want to get a Nikon mirrorless, the lenses won't fit unless you have a special adapter. Another point about lenses is that you can only swap lenses on DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. So if you opt for a bridge camera or a compact camera, guys, you're going to be stuck with the built-in zoom lens that it has. But some smartphones like the iPhone 11 Pro Max have 3 lenses, and some action cameras like the Insta360 or the GoPro Hero 8 Black have digital lenses that you can use to get different fields of view. Just bear in mind, as you make your camera selection, the more lenses that you have available to you, the greater the creative possibilities that you have. Number 6, is this the camera that you can learn and grow with? Yet another important factor when buying a camera is whether or not you can learn and grow with that camera. By that I mean, is this something that you're going to grow out of in the next year or two, or does it have enough features that will give you the reliable service well into the future as your skills develop? From this point of view, you can understand why some people will opt to getting a mid-range camera, like for example, a Nikon D7500, rather than an entry-level camera like the Nikon D 3500. That's because the mid-range camera like the 7500 is going to offer much more in terms of features. Yeah, the mid-range camera are going to be more expensive because they have additional features, but if you get twice as much or 3 times as much life out of it, it's going to make much more financial sense, particularly if you can find quality used camera to buy as well. And if you're a brand new photographer that has never held a camera other than your phone, you don't need to go out there and buy the most expensive camera that you can find. You don't even need to buy new, buy used. Instead, guys, a entry-level DSLR will probably work great for you. But if you have some experience behind the lens, think about opting for a more significant upgrade, well, if you can afford it. Having said all that, the best camera is often, as cliche as it sounds, the one that you already have. If you haven't already outgrown its capabilities, there's no need to upgrade. Number 7, don't worry about the megapixels. Now, camera manufacturers love to market cameras based upon megapixels, but in reality, they don't matter. At about 7 or 8 megapixels, you can print a photo 8 by 10 or even 11 by 14, and there's still going to be plenty of detail for the print to really look fabulous. Even entry-level cameras these days are about 12, 14, or 16 megapixels, if not more. So one thing you don't have to worry about is the megapixels the sensor offered. Instead, concentrate on the size of the sensor, as that has a greater impact on the image quality. Number 8, what about the price? Now, as I mentioned earlier, the larger the camera sensor, the larger the price. So using some of my examples from before, the full-frame Canon EOS R5 is about $3,900 for the body only. By contrast, the APS-C Nikon 3500 is just shy of $500, and that is with a kit lens. Are these cameras even remotely comparable to one another? Not at all. The EOS R5 is a professional camera with a ton of high-end features. The 3500 is a basic entry-level camera. Ultimately, price is most important for a lot of people, so I suspect that price is the biggest factor in determining which camera you get. For that reason, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to consider buying used cameras. This is especially important for beginners because your first camera will not be your last. There are tons of places you can buy great used gear and what these guys do, they inspect and they grade these cameras so you know exactly what condition that camera is when you get it. Besides, you don't want to blow your entire budget on just the camera. You need a lens or two, you need a camera strap, a tripod, remotes, filters. There's a lot of accessories that you can buy that will enable you to take better photos. I'm going to sign off on one last piece of advice. If at all possible, visit a camera store and get your hands on various types of cameras. Hold the DSLR, a mirrorless, a compact, an action cam, and a bridge camera, and really think about how each one feels in your hand. Examine the button layout as well. For some people, the way that Canon has organized the buttons on its mirrorless cameras just makes a lot more sense than, for example, how Sony does and vice versa. Play with the menu system. See how easy or how difficult it is to take a lens on or off. Inquire about warranties and the availability of accessories as well. The point is, buying a new camera, even if it's an entry-level one, requires a good chunk of change. So the more questions that you ask and the more thorough you are in your camera search, the better off you're gonna be. Now, if you paid attention to the tips that I've outlined here, you can find a camera that ticks off most and hopefully all of your boxes at the price point that you're in. Good luck finding the best camera for you, my friends. Now, let's review the details of our current giveaway. Here are the prizes that we have this round. We have a ViewSonic VP3881 38-inch monitor. We have a ViewSonic VP3481 34-inch monitor. We have a year's worth of coffee from F-Stop Coffee. And of course, we have the $100 Adorama gift card. Now, entering the giveaway is super simple. Step 1, like this video and subscribe to our channel. Step 2, leave a comment below. In fact, the more of our videos that you watch and leave a comment on, the more chances that you have to win. So, get watching some of our other videos and leave some comments. Step 3, register on PhotographyTalk and introduce yourself in the forum. Now, if you introduce yourself in the forum during one of our previous giveaways, you're still eligible to win. But as I keep saying, swing on by, say hello, let us know what you're doing. We would love to see you. And friend, that is it. For complete details on the giveaway, including how to register on PhotographyTalk and how to say hello in the forum, check out the description below. Good luck. Well, there you go, friend. 8 things to look out for when buying a new camera, well, or a used camera. If you found some value in this video, do consider hitting the like button down below. Do all that YouTube stuff that really does help the channel out. Hit the subscribe button, and while you're at it, kick that bell to be notified each time that we come out with a new video. All right, friend, I'm going to jump out of here. You get out there, stay healthy, and create your best shot.